think the contrast is still with the Prime Minister, who's actually been fined. And Keir has said that if he is fined, as the Prime Minister was, that he will resign. And that's the right thing to do. And I have every faith, by the way, that that's not going to happen. And we're talking about several hypotheticals here.
Why did number 10, why did those around the Prime Minister, his allies or whoever it was, insist that Sue Gray was the one who initiated a meeting with the Prime Minister when that wasn't true, when it was number 10 who initiated that meeting?
This is a tricky one. I've been trying to get to the bottom of this myself. As you say, there was a bit of a briefing war over the weekend. You had sources close to the Prime Minister, number 10 sources briefing the newspapers that this was Sue Gray's idea, then Sue Gray pushing back on that. Eventually, the conclusion, the on the record conclusion from Downing Street has been that this was a meeting that was proposed by Downing Street officials and on behalf of the Prime Minister. They are saying that this was just a logistical meeting. This was just to discuss the procedure of the report coming out. But we haven't yet got to the bottom of why there was that big confusion or deliberate misleading over the weekend from various different sources.
Yeah, and there's a distance between confusion and deliberate misleading. One is dishonesty, one is misleading the media and through them the country, and the other one is just being a bit shambolic. Charlotte Ivers, good to have you on, as always. Thank you. Now let me welcome Thangam Devannair, who's the Labour shadow leader of the House of Commons. Thangam, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
What do you make of the Downing Street team telling us this morning they called Sue Gray in for a meeting, despite telling us a day ago that it was the other way round?
I mean, I think the main development here is that the meeting, has been discovered, and it has been discovered that number 10 initiated. It really is quite extraordinary that after everything that's happened, they would try and put more obfuscation around this scandal. We have a Prime Minister who has now presided over a regime where there have been over 100 fixed penalty notices. I'm almost losing count now. At the address that he presides over, it's the single most fined address that there is. We really need the Sue Gray report to come out as soon as possible, which he did say he wanted. So it looks like it's obfuscation. It looks like they're just trying to spread the blame around. And really, if they have got nothing to hide, why not get on and publish?
Now, the Liberal Democrats are putting down a motion calling for the minutes on that meeting, just what was said by whom, to be made public. Are you supporting that motion?
Well, I haven't seen the wording of a specific motion, but certainly I think it's much better if everything is transparent and out in the open. I think the excuse that's been put around that there's no need to publish these minutes, I think because it was a private meeting or something, that's just absolutely outrageous. Clearly, it's not a private meeting when it's about the Sue Gray report, which has been a public discussion for months now, and has also seemed to have been at certain points a shield behind which Boris Johnson can hide. He needs to publish. He needs to publish in full, and I think the minutes of this meeting will be pertinent to that.
Yeah, look, maybe we'll get this report finally. Maybe we'll get it finally tomorrow. I don't know, and you don't know. And then it'll be up to, among others, your party and your party leader to respond and put together some sort of case, no doubt, against the Prime Minister, as strong as you can make it. And Keir Starmer, I guess his spear is going to be blunted by the fact that he's under investigation by the Durham Police, isn't it?
Well, I think that not at all. I'd say the clear contrast here is what actually adds strength to our arguments. Boris Johnson has already been fined and has not resigned. Keir has not been fined and has said that if he is, he will. And that's as leader of the opposition, not as Prime Minister. This is a Prime Minister who is in charge of the country at a time of national absolute crisis. And instead of leading by example, it seems he was leading by a different sort of example in which we bring wine in via suitcases through the back door of number 10 Downing Street. That is not what we expect from the leader of the country. He should have done the decent thing, I think, many weeks ago. Yeah. And the contrast with Keir is clear as far as I can see.
I know on your side you think Keir Starmer's in the clear, that the gathering in Durham, a campaign party meeting, there was beer, there was curry. You say that was for work purposes and you can prove it. Now that's your case. But it's not completely clear to me, is it, that Keir Starmer will resign if he's found to have broken the rules? It is possible, Thangam, isn't it, that the Durham Police may say that rules were breached. They're just not going to impose a fine because it was a long time ago and retrospective and so on.
If rules were breached, my understanding is that a fine would be imposed. And I think Keir has been clear in saying that if he is found to have done the wrong thing, then he would do the right thing and resign.
Whether he's fined or not.
Well, I mean, I think we're dancing on the head of a pin here.
We're not, Thangam. It is possible.
We are.
Oh, look, it's hypothetical to say what might happen because it hasn't happened yet. But yes. I want to be clear that when the leader of the Labour Party says he'll go if he's broken the rules, that means simply that if there seems to have been a breach, that's the trigger for resigning.
Well, I think the contrast is still with the Prime Minister, who's actually been fined. And Keir has said that if he is fined, as the Prime Minister was, that he will resign. And that's the right thing to do. And I have every faith, by the way, that that's not going to happen. And we're talking about several hypotheticals here.
Yeah.
But there is a real contrast between Keir Starmer, who is a law-abiding man and a good man, who's actually been in charge of the Crown Prosecution Service, for heaven's sake, and Boris Johnson, who's just a serial rule breaker and has presided over a culture of rule breaking and has done nothing about it.
Okay, now if Simon Case, the head of the British Civil Service, is found to have is criticised in the Sue Gray report, should he resign?
Well, again, we're dealing with hypotheticals, but we are talking here about a very senior civil servant, and I think there has to be some responsibility taken by the people at the top. I think what would be terribly unfair is if the rumours that we're hearing are true, that people who can't afford barristers and therefore won't have sent threatening letters, about what will happen if they're named. That's not unfair, and that is not okay. And I think it's really important that people at the bottom of the hierarchy are not made to carry the camp of those at the top.
Right. So you can answer this in a word then. Okay. So in a word, if Simon Case is found to have failed in his leadership, he's the top of the pyramid. If he's criticised for the leadership that was given or deficiencies in that leadership, he should resign. Yes or no?
Well, that would be. I would think that's a yes. Yes.
Thangam Devonair, good to talk to you. Thank you for coming on Drive this afternoon. Now, coming up here on the programme, we're being watched. It turns out 20 billion images of our faces were held illegally. We're going to find out why and how common this is. And I'm going to be talking about monkeypox. Should we be worried? It is now 4:21. I'm John Pienaar. This is Drive on Times Radio in association with Nutmeg. Invest your way with the UK's largest digital wealth manager. As with all investing, your capital's at risk.